Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining another episode of the Skin I'm In podcast. I'm your host, Chanel, and this is a place where women can tune in to gain peace through clarity, purpose through inspiration, and the permission to be themselves through the stories of other women. If you're enjoying these episodes so far, click the like, share, and subscribe button so that more women like you can be positively impacted by the stories in this podcast. My guest today is a registered nurse and midwife, an international board-certified lactation consultant, a certified international doula, a childbirth educator, a Hypnobirthing Australia practitioner, and optimal maternal positions and pelvic alignment ambassador. She lives and breathes birth, the nurturing of women, and creating community for mothers. She works in the space of healing and unravelling throughout pregnancy so that women from all walks of life can enter motherhood with unwavering confidence, self-love, and power. Her background is in understanding and nurturing the nervous system and works with previous birth trauma. This passion has seen my guest continuing her studies in a certificate of spinal flow and exercise physiology so that she can better serve her clients. As a midwife of 10 years and as a doula who has studied and experienced a range of holistic practices, she draws on a blend of ancient traditions and evidence-based information to bring individualized support to every woman and family she works with, no matter where they are at on their journey. She sees the importance of addressing all aspects of the birthing journey, ensuring mum is prepared physically, emotionally, and psycho-spiritually. She has gained this knowledge through immersing herself in the latest evidence from around the world and delving deep into practices of ancestors and ancient Indigenous cultures. When not at work, my guest can be found at home, snuggled to her pup Gus, and sipping hot chocolate on the couch reading fantasy books or enjoying a cheesy rom-com. Her real happy place, though, is by the ocean, whether it be swimming, surfing, or floating. She loves to have fun and be silly with her friends. She likes to belt out a good tune and cut some shapes on the dance floor. And a major part of her life right now is showing up every second day to be crushed and humbled by men who are 2 to 3 times her body weight as she takes on the challenge of practicing jiu-jitsu. She is the founder of Little Bird Flies. She is Melissa Bird. Welcome to the Skin I'm In podcast. Welcome to the Skin I'm In podcast, Melissa.
Thanks, Chanel. How are you?
I'm great. We were just having a really funny conversation about the term midwife because it's called midwifery, and I asked you if you're a midwife because I wasn't sure what the proper pronunciation is. So can you clear that up for me, please?
I'm pretty sure I'm definitely a midwife. Although I think I want to say I'm a midwife from now.
Yeah, I think you should, because I was, like I said, I was really confused. I'm like, if it's called midwifery, do I call her a midwife? I need to clarify this. So yes, I'm glad we've clarified that. But how did you get into this? How did you get into midwifery?
Um, I actually didn't mean to study midwifery. I was coming to the end of year 12, and I couldn't decide exactly what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to head more on the trajectory of sort of osteopathy or maybe into medicine and naturopathy. Couldn't work out which one, went to some university open days, and I thought, oh, nursing's a great base. And then my mum was like, found a double degree, you could do midwifery at the same time. And I was like, absolutely disgusting. No. I always said, like, I don't know if you've ever played like The Sims on the computer and they spin around like 3 times and then you get to choose the baby's name. Like, that was my plan of how I was going to have babies.
Of course.
And then I was like, great, it's a small course. You have to have a pretty decent ATAR to get in. I was like, I'll put it at the top of my list. I probably won't get in. Next minute, I get in. I think only like 20 people in Australia got in. At that stage, it was a pretty new course. And I was like, well, off we go. And first day of my first class of midwifery, and I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. So that was kind of my path into midwifery. It's been a journey since then. It's been 10 years now.
Right. And you took some time off between, right?
Yeah, so I went straight into studying the double degree, which is a 4-year course. My final year, I did take a year off and then traveled overseas and came back and finished. And then I was a couple years into working as a midwife and fell incredibly ill. I mean, I'd been ill that whole time, but it was getting worse and worse and was eventually diagnosed with Lyme disease. And it got me to a point where I could no longer work. Doctors that I was working with and seeing said, "You'll probably never work again. This is your life now. You are bed bound, almost wheelchair bound, could barely shower." It was, yeah, one of the hardest times of my life, the past, I mean, I would say 10 years and even more, because I started to feel really ill in my teenage years. But as work progressed, you couldn't really deny my illness anymore, and I eventually was able to find a reason for being so ill. So didn't work for 3 to 4 years and was just in treatment that whole time, and was very lost in what I was meant to do with my life. Told I could never work again. So I was like, well, how do I make this work for me? Also, the entire time I was moving through this illness, it was sort of obliterating everything I thought I knew about life. And here I was in my 20s, not living at all, stuck at home at my parents' house, and really realized that actually I do have a choice now. Like, I can get through this illness and I can prove everyone wrong, which is something that I like to do. I was told that Lyme disease, you go into remission a little bit like cancer, so it never goes away. And I was like, nah, I'm going to beat this. And I took this journey of taking full charge of my health. And I realized that I was at a point where I knew more than my care providers. And if I stuck with the care providers I had and in the system that I was in, I probably wouldn't be here much longer.
Because
So
they kind of denied that you even had Lyme disease, right? The practitioners that you were dealing with here in Australia?
yeah, I eventually found a couple that were incredibly supportive and did actually help me make that diagnosis, but all bloods had to be sent overseas, and we're working with overseas practitioners. But unfortunately in Australia, Lyme disease isn't recognised by our government, so it was a whole other ball game to be working within. And to receive treatment, when technically you're not allowed to receive treatment,
Mm.
and to be so sick that the treatment that is on offer could kill you, essentially.
Wow.
So I have always been brought up from a holistic place, and I'm really grateful that my mum did bring me up in that way. And I knew that this is where I needed to be working in to heal. And I just took that route and I started searching everywhere and anywhere and headed off overseas to Cyprus, of all places.
Wow. I mean, it's a pretty place to heal.
It's pretty nice. Pretty grueling 6 weeks, and was my first round of treatment there working with a Russian doctor. I was probably one of the first 10 or so overseas patients to attend this clinic in the middle of their city. Who knew? I thought, like, I jumped on a plane. I told my parents, I was like, this is what we're going to do. I've created this plan. He's got this plan. I'm adding in this clinic. Could end up with just fish being like flopped over my head for all I know.
Fish slapped.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah.
But got there, no fish was required. Was in a clinic with no English, just Russian and Greek. And it was a rehabilitation clinic combined with a lot of dementia patients. So I was the youngest by
What?
far, with a couple of other Australians who had worked out a similar path.